And this is the pregame show here on OSN. The Ottawa Senators in Florida to take on the Panthers. Lever Sage, Tanner Ryle with you. And if you can believe it, only 9 games left in the NHL season, and the Ottawa Senators find themselves 2 points out of a playoff spot. And Tanner, all things considered, the scoreboard, I don't think, did Ottawa a ton of favors since they last played Saturday afternoon, but they did get a break with the Columbus Blue Jackets, who have lost 3 games in a row now, that only sit 2 points ahead of Ottawa in that second wild card spot. And so some of the other teams that they're trying to catch are a little bit further ahead, but not Columbus, and that matters for the Ottawa Senators. How are you? How was your break?
Yeah, a couple days there with no shows. Kind of felt nice, but good to be back, I think, especially with a lot of the noise going around in the market right now. I think it's going to be nice to just get a game out of the way, but I do agree. I don't think the out-of-town scoreboard was as bad as it could have been. We were a little worried maybe they'd be 4 points back today.
Yep.
And they're only 2.
And with a game in hand on Columbus. So that for the most part, yes, the Boston Bruins keep winning because that's all they do is win. And the Pittsburgh Penguins with a massive victory over the New York Islanders yesterday and put up an 8 spot on the Islanders in there. But look, there's a lot of things to talk about, including a very depleted Florida Panthers team. This again, even though there's been a little break, now 4 games in 6 days for the Ottawa Senators as they play tonight and then back home for Thursday, Saturday, Sunday for the rest of this week. So still a lot of points up for grabs and just so much to talk about. But I will pat myself in the back here a little bit. Told people, Philadelphia Flyers are coming. They actually have a better record than the Ottawa Senators post-Olympic break, which has been really impressive. They got a big win over Detroit on Saturday, followed it up with an overtime win on Sunday against the Dallas Stars. And Ottawa, Detroit, and Philadelphia, all with 73 games played, all with 86 points, 2 points back of the Columbus Blue Jackets and 3 back of the New York Islanders, who are third in the Metro. So a lot to play for that too. Huge scoreboard tonight, but I think we got to start with what I just mentioned. You have the list for the Florida Panthers, and the list of who's not playing could probably beat the team who is playing tonight for Florida.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And just real quick, of course, the Senators, we'll mention, are pretty much running the same lines that they did the other night. Linus Ullmark starting in goal. I'm sure we're going to talk plenty about that coming up, but yeah, no Jake Sanderson. He has practiced with the team for 2 days now in a non-contact jersey, so I expect he'll probably be back on the homestand coming up. But yeah, the Panthers are just, oh my God, I've never seen such a long injury list. And Paul Maurice came out today and said that Brad Marchand, Sam Reinhart, Sasha Barkov, Anton Lundell, Nico Mikkola, Evan Rodriguez, Gadjevich, and Bolinskins are all unlikely to play again this season.
Cool.
So the team they're running out here, especially when you look at their forward core, is very shallow. So your top line is, pretty good. Carter Verhaeghe, Sam Bennett, Matthew Tkachuk. I think we can both agree that's a very good top 6 line.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got AJ Greer playing on your second line. And I know he was a great 4th liner for them in their cup run last year, but AJ Greer is not a top 6 NHL player. They've got Luostarinen and they've got Samoskevich, but once you get to those 3rd and 4th lines, it gets pretty shallow. And a couple former Ottawa Senators even in the mix. You got Noah Gregor playing on their 3rd line.
Mm-hmm.
And Cole Reinhardt is on their 4th line. He was picked up on waivers fairly recently from the Vegas Golden Knights. A little bit better on the back end. Like they've got Forsling, they've got Ekblad, they've got Jones, Kulikov, and then it's Donovan Sabrango and Michael Benning rounding things out there.
Still a good defense core, though.
I would say so, yeah. That's probably their biggest strength. And then, interestingly, Danil Tarasov is expected to get the start in goal tonight over Sergei The
Florida Panthers are fifth last in the National Hockey League. And they do sit 3 points up on the Calgary Flames, 4 points up on the Rangers. Can they fall further? It looks like they're trying to. For the NHL lottery coming up.
Yeah, well, they do have a top 10 protected pick, which was sent in the Seth Jones trade with Chicago last season. So,
right.
I mean, it looks like they're going to be pretty safely in the bottom 10. So, could be an easy way for them to rebound if they can grab a nice top 10 pick here and get a full off season of rest for guys like Barkov, who didn't even get to play this year. They could be a real threat next season.
Yeah, this feels like a 1 year just away from where they should be. And as you said, get everybody healthy. Look, it's not an excuse, but 2 years of winning the Stanley Cup and going into late June and what that does to players to have to come back, it's just insane. And I know the Edmonton Oilers are going through
even the year before that too. They were in the Cup final the year before that. So
yep,
it's basically 3 years of it.
3 years in a row. And look, the Edmonton Oilers are going through that as well. So it's not an excuse, but with all the injuries that are building up, I think if you're a Panthers fan, you got 2 cups, you might get, like, who knows? Maybe you win the lottery. Like, imagine.
Oh my God.
Right?
I think there'd be riots in some markets probably.
Well, of all the teams you go through, Vancouver and Chicago and the Rangers and Calgary, and even above them, St. Louis. I think Winnipeg's better than their record, but Seattle, like some of those teams, they desperately need a Gavin McKenna or, a number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
The Florida Panthers, it's the last thing that other teams want to see is them getting another player that can just be in their lineup and be at the league minimum and be an impact player to not affect their salary cap. That is just, everything and more that you could wish for if you are a Florida Panthers fan. So we'll see. Let's get to the Ottawa Senators here, who for probably the last few weeks, this is the biggest break they've had. They're in South Florida. They've been there since Saturday night. It's now Tuesday night. It's like literally 72 hours that they've been in Florida. Nice weather. And now they have to go play a team that has all of those guys out. But look, we talked about it. And again, I'm not going to completely pat ourselves on the back, but what you and I talked about during the pregame show when we found out that Linus Ullmark was not starting, and after the game on This Is Overtime, I heard the comments of Travis Green, and this is a major issue. This is not something that's light. And for a lot of people, I think it stayed in the news because Jeff O'Neill, the O-Dog, talked yesterday on Overdrive and was very harsh and very critical of Linus Ullmark. Jeff O'Neill played with Travis Green. I don't know if there's a full connection there, like Travis Green is telling him things, but I don't think you had to go much further. I heard Travis Green after the game. You told me exactly what he had to say. I'm like, that's not good. It's because he's basically telling you that he thinks Linus Ullmark should be in the net. And if he thinks Linus Ullmark should be in the net, so do all of the players. And he's back in the net tonight. I'm telling you, Tanner, he better play well. Because if he doesn't, and he ends up being, I don't want to say one of the reasons that they're not going to make the playoffs, but in this stretch, he now looks like a guy that's on the outside of that team. He does not look like he is part of that core. And they can say and dress it up in the media all they want. There's no way the players trust that guy. There's just no way they completely 100% trust that guy. Because Linus Ullmark put them in a position on Saturday afternoon to play a depleted Tampa Bay Lightning team with James Reimer in net. The management has to take some responsibility for that. The fact that James Reimer is their backup is an issue that's not Linus Ullmark's fault.
No.
But he just can't. He's got to be in the net on Saturday. And he wasn't, and they lost. And he better be a big reason why they win a bunch of games this week and next week. I'll tell you that, because this, more than anything that happened in December and January, this to me's got the possibility of Linus Ullmark being bought out by the Ottawa Senators at the end of the year.
Wow. That's a hot one. That's a hot take. I don't know if I go that far. Just
yeah, but I'm telling you right now, like, yes, it's not a great solution, but with the cap going up, you're going to eat about $3.5 million on the cap, and you're only going to eat about 1.6 next year, and then it goes up after that. The price that you might have to pay for that guy being on the outside looking in, because what are you going to do if he falters down here at the stretch? What are you going to do? You're going to bring him back at $8.25 million? The rest of the players won't trust him. How could you? It's just not possible to trust that guy to be there for you when all of these young kids are playing. I know everyone has now said it since it happened, but we talked about it on Saturday. Everyone is playing hurt. Everyone is banged up. They got a bunch of kids, no experience. And the guys who do have experience are playing 26, 27 minutes a night when they should be playing 15 a night. Everyone is doing everything they can, and the team is playing well, and you can't go in the net for that team. I just, if they don't make the playoffs, I would be surprised if he is not bought out. I truly believe that, because I don't know how you roll back with him. Even if you bring in some good competition for him, what if you bring in competition and the guy beats him out? And then now
I think that's the best case scenario.
Yeah, not an $8.25 million backup. That's not the best case scenario for me. The best case scenario is paying 1.6 on the cap next year and 3.25 and 3.5 after that to have him not here, so you can start fresh. So we'll see, but I don't think that. I think the next couple of weeks are like just super important for Linus Ullmark to be in the net all the time and play well. Both of those things. If that can't happen, this team is going to have, just because they're too good. That's the other thing. Like, you've witnessed this. Everyone has. This team is a really freaking good team right now. They should be in the playoffs. They should have a chance to chase the Stanley Cup. And if that is taken away from them, man, oh man, I just don't know. So
it's a really tough look. Like, no matter how you look at it, it's tough.
But again, I think for people listening, what you call a tough look, if it's a tougher look to your own players than it is to the fans and the media, you got to make a choice, because the thing that matters the most is about those players in the room. It's like, and maybe we can turn the discussion a little bit, Bruce Cassidy getting fired with 8 games to go with the Vegas Golden Knights, and they're in a playoff spot. The reason he got fired is because the players were very critical of him at the end of the year last year. The management stuck with him, and they were not going in the right direction as they get towards the playoffs, and they'll be lucky to stay in the playoffs. Big win last night under John Tortorella, but they had to make a decision. Is it a tough look to fire Bruce Cassidy, an amazing head coach with 8 games to go when your team is in a playoff spot? Yeah. But the thing that matters the most is the players in the room and what you're getting out of them. And I said to you on text, and I'll bring it up, I'm a big Devils fan. And in 99-2000, Robbie Ftorek was the head coach of the New Jersey Devils. And they were floundering along. They were in a playoff spot, but they were floundering along, not playing well at all. And Lou Lamoriello said, enough of this. And with 8 games to go, he fired him, brought in Larry Robinson, and they won the Stanley Cup in the year 2000. They have done that a couple of times, the Devils, in the month of March, fired their playoff coach to go into the playoffs with somebody new. So this isn't the first time that something like this has happened. What did you make of Bruce Cassidy getting fired and John Tortorella taking over?
It feels like there's been a lot going on in the league the last couple of days. I know we had a big one drop closer to home as well that I'm sure we're going to get into.
Yeah.
But I think for Vegas, it makes a lot of sense, really floundering going into the playoffs. And I think if they can get it together and right the ship, theoretically, they would probably have a pretty easy path to probably a conference final. When you look at, they're likely matching up with the Edmonton Oilers. And then it'd be another lower tier team. Like, you're not seeing a Dallas, a Minnesota, a team like that until you get to the finals, the conference finals. So riding the ship now and trying to get going for the playoffs, I think makes a lot of sense for them. Also, when you look at Tortorella, most recently with the Flyers, I think a big piece of why it didn't work out for them there was because of clashes with the younger players, guys like Machkov and among others, and just he's not great at developing younger players. He's better at being on a contending win now team. And Vegas is that. They're a very old core, no real guys they're trying to develop. They are in full win now mode for the next 3 to 4 years until Mark Stone can't do it anymore, until Eichel can't do it anymore. And then they're going to have to retool or whatever. I can't see that team ever rebuilding, but and you think about Vegas, they're a very cutthroat organization. They don't get attached to anybody. You think about Marc-Andre Fleury when they let that guy go. Clearly something wasn't working, and they're trying to win a Stanley Cup every single year, and that's what Vegas is going to do. And I'm very curious to see what their offseason is going to look like too, because I don't think Aiden Hill's going to be their starting goalie next year.
Yeah, and I wonder, like, if they don't perform really well in the playoffs, are they even keeping John Tortorella around? This feels
That's the interesting part too, because his contract is only for those 8 games in the playoffs.
Yep. And that's the same thing that Rick Bowness did, saying, I'll be here for the rest of the year in Columbus. Well, he's played his way into probably having the pick of whether he wants to come back or whether he wants to go somewhere else, because he's done an amazing job over the course of a few months. But John Tortorella's job is just to go in there and to motivate and to have this team's back and give it the edge that it needs over the next 6 to 8 weeks. That's it. Like, literally, it's a temporary 2-month job, and we'll see where we're at the end of it. But the Vegas Golden Knights have set the precedent. I'll give them credit for this. They've set the precedent that being mediocre or being average is not good enough in Vegas. Whether that's harsh and whether that gets some people's feathers ruffled, fans, because they're not as loyal as other teams, I understand. But their first and only priority is to win. And when they're not winning, they will do something about it. And I actually think that that's a good thing. Too many teams hover in that weird mediocrity, and it doesn't mean they're bad. It just means they're not great. And when you hover in that range, it's a very dangerous range to be in long term, because you're never getting to where you want to go. You're never having draft picks high enough to help your team. And Vegas doesn't stay there. And I think they feel fortunate right now that they're still in it, and they go to make the move. Speaking of moves, as you said, Brad Treliving fired as the general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think one of the things that people are asking, and it's a very good question, is why was Brad Treliving in charge of the deadline for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and then you're going to fire him afterwards? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. When he butchered the Mitch Marner situation last year and they just couldn't get it together, he was dead man walking. He has not done a good job. He didn't do a good job in Calgary. And now he came into Toronto and did an even worse job. Your thoughts on Brad Treliving being fired? And do you think does Toronto let it, the fans? Is it total blow it up time?
Yeah, I'm not really surprised. Feels like kind of the next shoe to drop there. Brandon Shanahan last season. I think Craig Berube, his days are pretty numbered as the head coach there. I do think they should completely blow it up. I think that'd be the best move for their fans and for that market. Imagine the return you could get for an Austin Matthews to enter into a complete rebuild. But if you saw any of the quotes coming out of their press conference that they did today, doesn't sound like that's what they want to do. They're talking about building around the quote generational talents like Austin Matthews and William Nylander that they already have in their system.
Mm-hmm.
That I think is a terrible idea.
Well, look, I think today, and with some of the quotes coming out, I think the right idea is to say that. Now, whether they follow through with that is different. You can't say we're just going to blow it up and we're probably going to trade Austin Matthews. And like, if you even consider that, the vultures will be out to try and get them at a lower cost. So if you are considering, if you're saying that Austin Matthews is a generational talent and you're trying to build him up, that's a strategy about when teams call. You're like, okay, but we really would like to build around it, but maybe there's a package out there that we just can't refuse. I
just think like the thing that'll probably be most telling to me would be who they put in as the general manager. Are they going to go with a more established guy, or is it going to be maybe a younger face who hasn't led an NHL team before? Because that would probably tell you which of those two directions they're going to go in. And by the sounds of it, they want a new GM in place before the combine and before the draft.
My thought process would be Doug Armstrong's been out of the game for a bit, of course, with the Olympic team and everything else, but he's a short-term fix. And maybe you go get Doug Armstrong for the interim for a year or two to make some of the big moves. Like if you are going to trade Austin Matthews, if you are going to trade William Nylander and completely revamp the team, I don't think you want somebody that doesn't have experience there. I wonder if Jason Spezza is going to be.
I saw that come up.
Well, I mean, look, he's an assistant GM right now. He's under the tutelage of Kyle Dubas, who, no matter if they fired him or not, they clearly had trust in Kyle Dubas because the Leafs, they are servant to the board of directors. And the board of directors worked with Kyle Dubas for a long time. And they would have worked with Jason Spezza for a while. And is there a sharper hockey mind that loves Toronto more than Jason Spezza? I don't know. I feel like if I'm the Leafs, I'm doing everything I can to get Jason Spezza. And can I get him and put him under? Because the Pittsburgh Penguins are never going to allow him to talk to the Leafs if it's not for the general manager role, right? Like he's the assistant GM in Pittsburgh. You're not going to allow him to interview for the assistant general manager in Toronto. But what you can do is, like a lot of teams have done, you change roles. And maybe you hire Doug Armstrong as something else. You call it something else so that you can call Jason Spezza the general manager. And this has happened a bunch of times, like even with the Toronto Raptors, right? Like Masai Ujiri was the guy in Toronto, but he wasn't the GM. He was the president. He was the president of the team, and he had some other titles, but Bobby Webster was the GM, and nobody even knew who Bobby Webster was at that time. Maybe you can do something like that to make sure that you don't lose him. But that's the way it kind of feels to me. Doug Armstrong, short term, Jason Spezza, long term. I think it'd be a really, really good fit. Ethan is in. I'm on the road at the moment. Just say Allmark not starting was a tough look. I don't think Green's addressing the media the way he did. If Linus gave indication it was mental health. Pierre Dorion will lead the Leafs team to years of
There we
prosperity.
go. Unparalleled success.
Never been so happy to know a coach turned down a job in Ottawa. Glad we didn't stick with Craig Berube. And I think Toronto does a combination of what Tanner said, find a guy younger, proven in a rebuild situation. I don't think Craig Berube has any fault at all. I think Craig Berube is a hell of a coach.
And who said he turned down Ottawa? Did he even interview here?
Yeah. So Craig Berube is a hell of a coach.
Yeah.
That's a terrible, terrible hockey team in Toronto. That's not the coach.
Yeah, I don't think Berube will be unemployed for long. And I mean, there's plenty of other good names out there. I think Peter DeBoer will probably get picked up pretty soon as well. Surprised he's lasted this long, but there's some interesting. Yeah, Bruce Cassidy. That's another great name. And lots of interesting other GM names out there too. One person who won't be available is Jim Nill, who just re-upped with the Dallas Stars today. I think that's a great move for them. He's won the GM of the year a couple of times, but still a lot of interesting names out there. I know Nashville is also going through their process of naming a new GM after letting Barry Trotz retire, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
But I know one name that's getting circled by a lot of people as well as Brett Peterson, who's a current assistant GM with the Florida Panthers and just got named to Team USA, I believe, for the 2026 US World Championships. Could be a name to watch as well, but I would agree with you. I think Spezza makes a lot of sense, as much as Sens fans, including myself, probably wouldn't love to see it.
I know, but he grew up in Toronto. He went back and played in Toronto. He loves his hometown.
Absolutely.
And I don't think even Senators fans, you can't be mad at that. Like, I know,
I got a great story. You know, my cousin, Noel Hoffenmeyer, a hockey player right now.
Love Noel.
He actually just got traded, or just switched teams, I should say. He's now moved on to the DEL. He's playing in Germany.
Okay. He was playing in the KHL?
He was in the K with HC Sochi, but they were a very bad team this year. But during his AHL days, he played for the Toronto Marlies and made a point of saying that Jason Spezza was just an absolute beauty to all of the young kids on the Marlies and would take them all out to dinner pretty regularly and buy them all their food and stuff. So yeah, good guy behind the scenes.
He's a hockey lifer. Like,
for sure. And loves the game.
I mean this in the kindest of ways. He is a hockey nerd. Like, he lives and breathes hockey. He wants to talk to you about stats and other games and what you're seeing and all of that stuff. He literally lives and breathes the game. And I just, I have a ton of respect for that guy. And you can't fault someone for loving where they're from and representing their hometown and wanting to go back and do well. He's learning the game in Pittsburgh. What a great environment under Kyle Dubas to be able to do that. So I just think the Leafs would do very well, but I wouldn't be hiring him to, if you're going to trade Austin Matthews and if you're going to do those things, I'm not letting Jason Spezza do that. I'm bringing in somebody else to do that and maybe let Jason Spezza take over at another point, and we'll see how that balances. Maybe they can't do both. Maybe if they hire Doug Armstrong, they can't bring in Jason Spezza.
Well, one thing they also did mention not ruling out hiring a president of hockey ops and a GM. So maybe they do the more experienced guy as the president of hockey ops, and then
that's
exactly a guy.
Exactly why it's exactly why teams make those positions, so that you can go to another team and say, we want to interview this guy for our general manager spot, even though within what you have going on, it might still be your assistant GM role. The fact that you're able to call him that would be different. All right. As we approach the game here, just look at the scoreboard tonight. It is, things are going to change tonight regardless. So the Boston Bruins are at home to the Dallas Stars, who can't seem to get out of the way of playing everybody. The New York Islanders, who got beat up by the Penguins, are in Buffalo now to take on a Sabres team that, has been struggling a little bit. And we'll see the Buffalo Sabres here on Thursday in Ottawa. The Montreal Canadiens are in Tampa tonight. They've kind of separated themselves a little bit. That Detroit-Pittsburgh game has just a ton of implication in the Eastern Conference playoffs. And kind of the two teams that often get forgotten, but they're not forgotten in this race right now. The Columbus Blue Jackets, like I said, have lost 3 in a row, and they got the Carolina Hurricanes tonight at home. So that's another tough matchup for them. And then the Philadelphia Flyers, who are rolling, are in Washington to take on the Capitals. And one thing I wanted to mention too, while we were talking about Philly, they are a team right now that has it all in front of them. And so does Ottawa and Detroit. And I mean, teams win out, they're going to be there, right? But you look at the Philadelphia Flyers after tonight in Washington, where you feel like they have a good chance, their next 5 games, home to Detroit, on Long Island to take on the Islanders, home to Boston, a little bit of a reprieve in New Jersey, and then in Detroit again. They still play Detroit twice. They got the Islanders, they got Boston, all coming up in the next 5 games. So the Flyers, if they're able to get through all of those games, they're going to be there, right? So that's what Ottawa's got to deal with. And look, teams play, I think, more of the relevant games where you can either lose or make up ground quicker. Ottawa doesn't really have that schedule, but we talked about, is that an advantage or not? Advantage tonight with that depleted Florida Panthers team and Linus Ullmark back in goal. All right, Tanner, what do you think happens this evening?
I think I feel pretty good about the Senators' odds, just looking at the state of the Florida Panthers right now. I think it's going to be a fairly easy win for them. But like we talked about earlier on the pregame show, my biggest question mark is Linus Ullmark. How does he look tonight after a couple of days off? Hopefully pretty good, because he's got to be a big part of this team if they're going to crawl back into a playoff spot, potentially with a win here tonight and a little bit of out-of-town scoreboard luck. But yeah, I'm taking the Sens, and I'm probably having around like a 4-1 win for them. Not a very deep Panthers team. The real struggle here is probably going to be the matchups when you look on defense.
Yeah, I agree. I think Ottawa's got a lot more tonight, not just because of their lineup, but I don't think they feel, if they can lock Florida down, I don't think they feel threatened by the Panthers. Yeah. And that's saying a lot without Jake Sanderson and Thomas Chabot, that this team is going to be able to do that. I think it's a real low scoring game tonight. You said 4-1. Yeah, I was thinking like 2-1 empty net, maybe 3-1, that kind of thing. I think Ottawa is able to prevail, but just like you and everybody else. So Linus Ullmark doesn't play on Saturday. James Reimer plays and they lose. They go to South Florida. Has Ullmark been around the team? Like, obviously he's been around the team, but like, is he hanging out with the rest of the guys? Because the rest of the guys in the back of their mind or in the front of their mind are like, dude, why did you not play? Like, so you kind of wonder, if a bad goal goes in or something happens, how does the rest of the team react to that? I am really interested in that part. But Linus Ullmark, like most players and like most teams, if you play well and you do good things and Linus Ullmark shuts out the Florida Panthers, then we're not going to be talking about, like, is there a rift? They're going to be talking about, can the Senators make the playoffs? Like, if he just plays well in the next little while. But you'd have to think that Ullmark is going to play tonight, play Thursday, and then play one of the 2 games on Saturday and Sunday, which to me, with all of this rest that he's had, he should be playing 4 and 6, but I just don't see it. With, if he needed a rest after 2 days, and Ethan talked about it a little bit, that Travis Green wouldn't be addressing the media like that if it was about mental health. This isn't about mental health anymore. Whether he's got something going on or not, this is about that he was not in shape to be able to play. And whether he had a nagging something or he's just not in great shape, that is the reason why. Because they didn't have anybody else called up. He was able to back up, and Travis Green did talk about it at the end of the game. So
it's just, you hear it all the time. The best ability is availability.
Love it.
And
love it.
I mean,
love it.
even when you're looking at some of his stats, I think it is a little bit of more of a concern than they made it to be this year. He's on pace to play still, despite the Olympic break, despite all this time that he's missed for the mental health break and all that. He is still on pace to play the most games he has ever played in a season. I just don't know that he is like a 50 game legit number one goaltender. And I think they should have made more of an effort to address that in the offseason.
Another reason that if they get to the end of the year and they've missed the playoffs and they don't think the guy can play 50 or 60 games, is it worth it with the cap going up to cut bait on the guy? We'll see.
But then who's your goalie? Is Marilainen? Yeah.
No, they're gonna have to go out and find a goalie. Like, and maybe they're gonna have to go out and find two goalies. Like, that's how bad it is. They might have to go out.
I think I know a guy. I can't remember his name though. I think I know a guy that they should trade for. That I'll leave it there.
Yeah, we're gonna leave the Minnesota talk out here and get to the game. The game is gonna start any second now. You and I, Tanner, will be back right after the game with This Is Overtime. Enjoy the game, folks. Ottawa in Florida to take on the Panthers and knock on some wood. Here I am, some real wood here, with some out-of-town scoreboard help, and maybe Ottawa's in a good spot in a few hours. But we will know because everyone's playing pretty much at 7 or 7:30 tonight. So we will know. We'll talk to you after the game. This has been your pregame show on OSN.